Welcome everyone to today's Advisor Ambassador session. My name is Emily Cabbage. I'm the Director of Marketing at NAFA. And today we actually have a really special opportunity for you because as circumstances turn out, I am actually in the same city as our Advisor Ambassador today. I am in Columbus, Ohio with Derek Sheets, who is a financial advisor with Lifetime Financial Growth. And we will turn it over to Derek and welcome. He's here. Welcome. My name is Emily Cabbage. I am the Director of Marketing at NAFA. Today we have a very special opportunity because I am actually in the same town as our Advisor Ambassador. So today I've got Derek Sheets with us from Lifetime Financial Growth, who is a financial advisor. He's going to give you some tips today on finding your niche market and getting started in the business. So let me just share my screen and I will turn it over to Derek.
Come back.
Run down Troy deposit.
Good afternoon, everybody. I trust you're all doing well today. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you all. As Emily mentioned, we have a very unique opportunity today as she is from Waterloo, Iowa, and I am here. We're both here in Columbus, Ohio, but I am always in Columbus, Ohio. So the fact that we're able to physically connect is very rare. So
Microsoft account
this presentation
every once in a while I was saving documents.
So with that being said, again, my name is Derek Sheets with Lifetime Financial Growth. And we are a privately held wealth management firm based in the Midwest. We have branches in each contiguous state of Ohio. So we're in Ohio, Michigan, Indiana, Kentucky, West Virginia, and Pennsylvania. We have just over 200 advisors across that state region, and we've been in business for over 50 years. So with that being said, I wanted to share a little bit on the importance and the process of choosing a niche or target market in this industry. So with that being said, I wanted to give you a brief background on not only myself, but my path to how I got to where I am today. So it all started back in college. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I had no idea what I wanted to study. So my first 2 years of undergrad, I just went through all the prerequisites to get to the point where I could finally figure out what I wanted to quote unquote specialize in. Now, after my sophomore year, I was still in the dark when it came to figuring out what I wanted to do. I had a hand reach out to me from a good friend, and he asked if I wanted to intern with a financial services company based in Columbus, Ohio. And I was going to get paid $10 an hour to do so. So I said, I have no other opportunities this summer. Why not? And what I learned from that experience was that financial planning and financial advising, financial services are absolutely required when it comes to having an idea of not only where you are today, but where you want to be in the future and the steps to take to get there. So working as an intern over that 3-month period, I learned not only what works in the industry, but I learned more importantly what doesn't work in the industry. And after that internship, I shifted gears and I told my advisor at Ohio State, I know exactly what I want to do. Is there a path that allows me to do that here at Ohio State? And my advisor, sure enough, told me, absolutely. Here is the path that you can take. Here are the prerequisites to get there. And she sent me on my way. So I ended up graduating in 2011, but throughout that process, I had a handful of odd jobs. I worked as a valet driver. I would park cars on weekends. I worked as a beer drive-through gas station attendant. I worked as a surgical technician. I did pretty much everything I could to not only what I would consider make ends meet, but to try and figure out what I really wanted in my life. So having all these quote unquote odd jobs, I figured out that I need to choose what I want to do. And it took me some time, but after experiencing a little bit more through college and having a degree in consumer and family financial management, I was able to determine that I want to get in the financial services industry. It was not an easy step to take. It was not easy for me to give up a job that I was actually making decent money and I was working more or less the hours that I wanted to, but I didn't see any value in that job outside of the paycheck. So I interned with a company in Columbus, and it was probably, yes, all right. So it was probably the best step I could have taken to get into this career. I'm not saying the company was phenomenal. That has nothing to do with it. It was actually the fact that I learned more about the industry in that 6-month period than I could have thought anywhere else. Not only that, I got paid to get some of my licensing, which is very rare in this industry. Typically speaking, you'll start with a financial services company and they'll say, hey, you've got 3 weeks to get your license for this, this, and this. And they send you on your way. In fact, you typically aren't even appointed with that care or that company until you pass some of these licensing tests. So I was able to get all that done by getting paid. It was minimum wage, but I was still getting paid. And that's what kept me in the industry, to be honest. I could not have gone 6 months without getting paid. That's the fact of the matter. So getting that minimum wage during that process really did help. What I learned from Forrester's Financial was, how do you prospect? And prospecting is the lifeblood of this business. What does that mean? Prospecting is going out and actively seeking people that you want to help. And it's not that you're going out and just trying to meet everyone in the entire world. That's actually where I almost failed out of the industry, because I wanted to help everyone. I didn't have a definitive market to work with. And I was just trying to prospect on the fact that I am a financial advisor. People know who I am. Maybe I can stir up some conversation and get a meeting scheduled from there. It was very tough to do, and there was no consistency, and there was absolutely no predictability. So with all that being said, I was introduced, and it was introduced to Lifetime Financial Growth via 2 guys that I actually went to high school with. I had no idea they were in the industry. It was a blind phone call from one of the guys. And I said, sure, I've had a really good experience so far in the industry, but maybe there's something else better out there for me. So I met them at the office. And actually, it's funny, I met them in this conference room 4 years ago. And within 10 minutes, I knew I wanted to make the switch. And there are a multitude of reasons for that. But the biggest reason is I transitioned from what I considered a product-driven company to a process-driven company in terms of planning, not just putting a product in place and saying, see you later. That to me was the reason I almost wanted to get out of the industry, because that's what I thought the industry was about. That's not true. It's about having a process and helping people understand why that product is important, if that product is needed, and how it would fit into your financial plan and your financial process. So I started with Lifetime Financial Growth just over 4 years ago, and almost out of the get-go, I had a handful of guys and gals around the office trying to ask me, what market are you? What market are you working in? And I honestly did not know what they meant by that. And then I spent a little more time with some of the experienced advisors in the office, and I started to understand what they meant by that. You need to pick a market that you not only understand and know, but you want to work in. You can't just pick something because it seems like that person or that market has a lot of money or they do really well here and there. You're not going to get very far unless you pick a market that you really want. And that brings me to this this comment on your dreams and goals are the reason you do what you do. Now, with that being said, goals do not equal numbers, and numbers do not equal goals. So you have to figure out, why am I doing what I do? And who am I doing it for? 4 years ago, it was very different. I was doing it for myself. Now things have changed. I have a family and I'm doing it for other people. But the reason I bring this up is because without dreams and goals, you have nothing to shoot for in the future. And I know I took a little tangent here, but that's why I decided to pick a niche market, because I wanted to achieve and exceed my goals. And without having that market, I would have never been able to do so. So that brought me to the reasoning behind advisors needing to become personal with their target audience. Typically speaking, as you see on the screen, financial products and services are considered, and they're becoming more of a commodity. It is a product-driven area of the business that we don't always agree with. We are on the process-driven side. But at the end of the day, you have to find an interest in who you're working with. So you need to find a personal interest in that client, whether it be the individual, the family, the business owner. You need to figure out, how can you relate to that person? And then jumping to the next step is, people buy for 3 reasons. And I'm not talking about buying a product. I'm talking about buying advice or buying the ability to work with someone. They do it for those three reasons right there. They know you, they trust you, and they recognize the value for their money. Those three things are how you're able to continuously work with that market that I keep hyping about. So to bring it back to what is a niche market, simply put, it's a definitive group of people who network and communicate with each other. They typically do similar things. They don't have to do the same exact thing, but attorneys typically hang out with attorneys. Dentists typically hang out with dentists. Business owners, they typically hang out with other business owners. That's just the way things are. So when it comes to that target market or that niche market that you're looking to dive into, you need to connect with those people, meaning that you have to understand how they connect with each other. And as you see on the screen, where and what they do for a living, that is the number one thing that you need to figure out. Because without knowing what they do for a living, you're going to have no idea how to talk their language or how to build rapport and trust with that group of individuals. Number two is recreation. What do they do for fun? What do they do outside of work? That's another very important thing too, because different segments of the markets do different things outside of work. For instance, dentists really like to golf. It's neither here nor there. They like to golf. I utilize that as a very strong way to build relationships with dentists. I take them golfing. It is not the same with, for instance, a business owner. He may be more or she may be more into doing something completely different. So you just have to figure out what these people like to do outside of work. And then the last thing is where and what are their special interests? Special interests. Are they culturally driven to something that their family's from a certain part of the world? Are they culturally driven to be a part of that community? Are they religious? Are they very family engaged? Are they a part of charitable roundtables? Do they give money back to different areas of the community? You need to determine these things before you decide if that market is right for you. So very straightforward here. You must be able to relate to the group. I was able to pick my niche market. It took me 2 years to do so, but I was able to pick my niche market because of a handful of things that have happened in my life. I grew up in a family of dentists, oral surgeons, general dentists, you name it. I have uncles, dads, sisters. Throughout my life, I've been around dentists, and it just makes sense. I understand the lifestyle, and I understand what they go through on a daily basis. I even understand work-life balance because I saw it firsthand. So I focused my efforts and I selected the market that I wanted to work in, because it's all about what I want at that point. You have to be selfish right then and there, because if you're not selfish at that point, you're never going to know what market to work in. Step two is you need to verify that that market is worth working. And you can do that in so many different ways. You can meet a center of influence. You can go on Google and figure out, not only does that market have X amount of people in the area, but that market has a median income of this much. And that market typically has these types of people in it. So you need to determine that on your own. It's not something that's just going to be thrown at you, but I can assure you that every market is underserved. That means that we need to, as financial advisors, go out and help those people. They just don't know they need the help. And typically speaking, if they reach out to you, it's because they have some sort of pain. It's never because they want to gain something. It's because they have a pain, a financial pain that they want to get rid of. So you need to be reaching these people when things are going well, as opposed to them coming to you when things aren't going well. Catch it before the problem starts. So that's step three, connecting to the people within the market. Again, bringing it back to what I like to do. I host events at Topgolf for dentists. It's right around the corner here. It's a great opportunity for me to meet people on a personal level. I invite clients and I have my clients invite prospects. It's that easy. It is a very good way for not only them to have camaraderie, but for me to get to know them on a personal level. Next thing is you need to grow your relationships in that industry or market for the long term. The reason I bring this up is because if you want financial planning or advising or services to be a part of your career, I want you to have this career for a long time. You cannot rely on a group of people for 1 year and think that they're going to continue to come back to you. You have to keep cultivating and fertilizing and planting the seeds so that your clients and the other people that you've met along the way, when it's time to talk about these things, they think of you. They don't think of calling some 1-800 number and trying to figure out who's going to help me in this situation. You have to determine that. So the big thing with implementing this strategy, it's very easy to do. And I'm not saying it's easy as you can just go walk down the street and figure out your market. It's easy because you're going to be with a company that may have 4 employees or may have 400 employees. You need to determine and figure out what the successful people are doing in your company. What industries are they working in? And not to step on toes, but learn about their process to understand that niche market. Because most of the time, it's going to be different than what you want to work in. So you have to understand what brought them to the level of success that they're at now. It's because of what they did 10, 20 years ago in picking that niche market. So you must learn the market. It's that easy. For me, again, I grew up around dentists. I speak the language and lingo. I understand that community pretty well. But even with that, I still spend time with the American Dental Association and the Ohio Dental Association, learning about what they're learning about, so that when push comes to shove and I have these conversations, if something's changed in dentistry, I want to know that too, so I can still be a part of that conversation. I don't want to drop the ball and be like, oh, that's news to me. I want to be a part of the conversations, as I'm not the dentist, but I want to be the dentist coach or educator, so that they come to me with those questions, or they ask me, Coach, what do I do next? How do I get to the next level? How do I meet and achieve my objectives that I've been working on for all this time? It's all a matter of getting to know them and communicating in a manner so that they can understand it. Attorneys are going to speak to you differently than doctors. Business owners are going to speak to you differently than mechanics. Everyone is different. Every industry is different. So you have to understand how to communicate with that industry. And then you have to have a clear marketing plan. It's that simple. That's something that you can do on your own, and you cannot take that for granted, because without a clear marketing plan, you're never going to have an idea of how to make this predictable. And without predictability and consistency, you're going to go up the hill and you're going to be like, this is great. And then you're going to run out of things and you're going to go back down. And you're going to try and have to figure out everything all over again. So you also want to grow with your market. And this is what I just mentioned earlier. You need to learn more about the market as you spend more time with them. It's not something that you can just figure it out right away. It's a moldable process where everything happens throughout the process. It's not something that's just, here it is, it's set in stone. Things change. You have to be able to adapt with the changes in that market. So I've joined a few study groups, but I also have created one. And it's a relatively newer thing, but I'm trying to bring in clients so that they can bring in more to these study groups. It's not like Topgolf, that's completely social. This is more of a professional atmosphere where people understand, I'm going to learn. I'm not going to have fun. So you have to also do these types of things. Spend time in the market and learn from your centers of influence. I consider my father a great center of influence. He's about to retire. He is very well versed in the dental community, and he knows a lot of people. He has helped me understand what problems arise when it comes to being a dentist, but also the great successes that can come with that. So last bullet point there is the markets change, and every market changes. You have to be able to adapt so that when there is a change, you're not left in the dark. So in conclusion, choosing that natural market is absolutely the most important thing you can do in the first year of your career. Most of the time when you join a financial services company or financial planning firm, the first group of people they want you to go to is your natural market. That means your family, your friends, the people you already know. That may have some success in the first 6 months, but you're going to run out of people very quickly. That is why choosing a market outside of your natural market, I've kind of blended the two a little bit here and there, but you're able to dive deep into an area that there are 10,000 people in Central Ohio, or whatever the number is. If you're working with realtors or attorneys, you can look up the amount of them in your city. Figure out what market makes sense. And the reason that you have to work a market as opposed to what I call being the jack of all trades is you're going to fail. No one can do everything. I have experts that I bring to the table if I don't know something. And I say that because I'm confident enough in my ability to bring someone in if I'm not comfortable with the conversation. I bring that up again because I'm not the jack of all trades. No one in my office, no one with my firm is the jack of all trades. If there were that person, they probably wouldn't be here. They'd be on a beach somewhere enjoying their time. I know who to go to in certain situations, so it's truly impossible to be that jack of all trades. Try out different markets. If one doesn't work, that's fine. Early in your career, you could have 3 or 4 markets that you're targeting at one time. And over a few months, you'll figure out, well, that one's not working. This one's not working. These 2 are working, but I feel like I like this one more. You have to try it out before you really understand if it's going to work or not. And then figuring out what you want is truly the most important thing. Ultimately, if you're working in a market, you have to want to work in that market. If you're going to make this a career, it's going to be a 35-year career. Excuse me, you don't want to work in a market that you don't like the people, or you don't like their personalities, or you don't like the fact that they're this type or this type or this type. You have the choice of picking that market, and it's completely up to you. It's just a matter of taking all of those facets and putting them together. Pick a market that you want to work in, pick a market that you understand, pick a market that you know, and just dive deep into it. Once you get there, you're going to be able to see the wonderful light that is referrals coming into you because you are the one that's the foremost authority in working with that market. And with that being said, I appreciate all of your time, and we can open it up to any and all questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Derek.
My pleasure.
Great presentation. And I have a question for you.
Yes.
So you mentioned that it took you 2 years to identify your niche market. From what you said to me, it sounds like, hey, that would have been a natural fit to go after right away.
Yes.
So kind of talk through that process. How did it take you 2 years to determine something that seems now, hearing the whole story, obvious?
Absolutely. So it's funny you asked that question because when I started with the first financial services company I was with, it was more product driven, and I was not what I would consider confident enough to dive into that niche market. And with that being said, the products and services that were being offered to, in my mind, were more for the general population and not for a specific group of people. So after I made the move from first company to Lifetime Financial Growth, I still didn't really understand that I should be working a specific market. But with that being said, I knew that the tools and resources I had gave me the ability to do so. So I was still running around trying to find anyone and everyone that wanted to meet. But then I knew I had the confidence and clarity to actually have those conversations, where when I was with other company, I wasn't confident in those conversations because I knew I was going out and selling a product. Now I'm selling a process and I'm selling myself. It's a lot easier to do that than it is to try and sell a product that may be the hot product of the week. It may not be the hot product of the week. So having not had a market for almost, well, it was 6 months with XYZ company and then almost a year and a half with Lifetime Financial Growth before I really figured it out, I was trying everything. I worked different markets. I tried the attorney market. I tried the real estate market. I tried all these different markets, but they just didn't fit with who I am and who I wanted to be working with. So I worked on the trial and error method, but I didn't do what I just advised you to do, where to pick multiple markets first and spend time with each individual market. Had I done that in the beginning, I probably would have figured it out much quicker. But I went from one to the next to the next. And of course, hindsight is what it is. If I were to rewind 4 years ago, it would have been a no-brainer. But until you see it, you can't feel it and do it. So that's what took me so long, is figuring out really what I want. And I didn't realize how strong lifetime financial growth is when it comes to the actual process of getting from A to Z in the most efficient manner and getting up the mountain, but also more importantly, being able to get back down the mountain. Does that answer your question?
It does.
Very
yes.
long-winded
Yes.
version,
No, that was a great answer. So another question, kind of follow-up question to that. So you talked about how you went into real estate and attorneys and different markets. How did you go about that process? Where did you find your centers of influence to dabble into those different markets?
So I actually started to join networking groups. And to put it simply, networking groups are great. You have to figure out which one fits with you best, though, because I've been in 4 different groups. I'm not going to say the names of any of them. They're national groups. They're all networking groups. Some are better than others, but you get to know other people. But the fact is, most networking groups, people are looking for themselves. How can this person help me? How can this person help me? So when I would go meet these people in networking groups, we'd have great conversations. I'd meet attorneys, I'd meet realtors, I'd meet all sorts of people, business owners and everything. But ultimately, the question came back to how can you help me, as opposed to how can I help you? Things were worked backwards. So I was able to meet one attorney in my first networking group that led to a handful of others. And having spent time conversing with them, I knew that this is not the area that I wanted to be. But at that time, I had kind of invested a lot of time and effort into it. So I didn't want to just drop it before I picked up something else. So I kept working that market, and then I figured out another one. And then it took me time. And again, it's going back to, I don't want to say it was trial and error, but it was trial and error. It really was. I had to find or try something. If it didn't work, go on to the next. And again, hindsight would tell me that I should have done it in the beginning, but it is what it is. I'm here where I'm at now, and I'm thrilled with the progress that I've made.
Fantastic. Let's see if our audience has any questions. If you do, you can type them into the chat box or unmute yourself. But no, that's a great story, Derek. I really, actually, your humble beginnings of a gas station, drive-through, liquor store.
It was,
you know,
that's how you do. That's how you get through college.
Right.
You work any minimum wage job you can get,
Absolutely.
and you just do what you got to do.
Absolutely. No, that's a great story, and I appreciate you sharing that with everybody today. So with that, I will say goodbye. Derek, it's been an honor to be with you in person, face to face.
Pleasure.
So I hope you guys enjoyed this official live version of Advisor Ambassador. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.